We'll be discussing the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, which was observed, that was yesterday, the 26th, am I right? 26th of June every year. And this year, the theme was breaking the chains, prevention, treatment, and recovery for all. In the studio right now, and I'm being joined by someone who has dedicated his entire life to ensuring young people understand the ills and how bad it is to engage in drug abuse, discouraging peddlers. He is Kenneth Anetor. He is the founder a new thing. There's so much more. I don't know where to start. He is also what's it called now? The consultant to the Committee on Narcotic Drugs Abuse. Yeah. So thank you so much for being part of the program.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's wonderful. I know this period is very busy for you as you're doing a media tour, ensuring people you use this opportunity to know how bad it is to engage in drug abuse. And I know you have been all about prevention. Before you get into the treatment and recovery, let us just prevent. But when you look at the Nigerian young people, how do you think we're doing any better from several years ago?
First of all, I want to say thank you to the station for this opportunity, for this platform. I don't take it for granted. It's important that among the different stakeholders in the intervention value chain, the media remain one of our strongest allies.
We're happy
to say thank you.
We're happy to be part of it.
Okay. To your question, in terms of what we're doing, I will not say that we are. I will just say that more can be done. More can be done, and that's why we're here. We're here to raise awareness. We're here to profess solutions. We're here to let people know that Nigeria is sitting on a time bomb, so to say. If we look at statistics from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, in 2018, the drug prevalence in Nigeria was about 14.4%. We're looking at 3 times the global average around the world, just in Nigeria. When we now have a look at the statistics that show that for every 7 persons, 1 person was using drugs in the last 1 year, and for every 5 persons that uses drug, 1 has a substance abuse problem, and for every 4 persons with a substance abuse problem, 1 is a woman. Then statistics also show that women go faster from casual drug usage to problematic drug usage, especially when they inject drugs, because when they do that, they do it with multiple partners. But in terms of treatment and rehabilitation in Nigeria, we see that for every 20 persons that are treated, only 1 is a woman. And why is that? There are some factors. 1, because of stigma. Women face double stigma. They face stigma from fellow drug users when they want to access treatment. They face stigma from community members doing reintegration back into the society. They face stigma from care workers saying you are a woman, you should be home.
Of all people, you should know better.
Why are you here? If they're giving you the injection, they will slap you. This. If they're giving you drugs, they can demean the person. And another thing that has hampered people getting treatment, there was a study that was done, and that study, there were 3 things that came out. 1, people don't know where to get treatment. 2, people felt that they will be judged for getting treatment. 3, people felt like they don't even care. So another thing, the cost of rehabilitation. As at 2022, when I did a little research of my own, rehabilitation cost was the average was about 400,000 to about 300,000 to 4 million a month.
To 4 million
a month. So for every month of rehabilitation, and we are looking at a situation where someone has to go into treatment for at least 3 months, depending on the severity of the challenge. Because when we talk about drug abuse is the start, which develops into substance use disorder. And substance use disorder is a chronic relapsing brain disorder characterized by a person going after a particular drug of choice, regardless of how it affects him, how it affects his family, and how it affects the society at large.
Right.
So now, when this person's substance use has gone from just abusing the substance to casual usage to dependency, then problematic usage, that person now has substance use disorder.
Right.
Now, in that frame now, this is a chronic relapsing brain disease. like other chronic relapsing diseases, they like cancer, they can be treated. The person can be scanned and seen that the person is completely healed, but there are tendencies that it can relapse. Substance use disorder has the tendency to relapse because it's like any other disease. And the reason that the treatment is usually effective is because when the person uses substances, since it's a relapsing brain disorder, it actually damages parts of the brain. Those parts of the brain, on initial assessment, when the person comes into the treatment center, we can scan the brain, we can see the parts of the brain that have actually been damaged, and we can now begin to provide treatment. And after a season, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, a year or 2, depending on the severity of the damage that happened to the different parts of the brain, depending on the drugs the person was using, the person can be totally free.
Totally free?
Totally free, yes. But the cost, so because of this cost is why today this International Day against substance abuse, against drug abuse and illicit trafficking 2025, we are advocating that prevention. The evidence is clear. Invest in prevention.
Cheaper, it is better.
It's better.
Yes, it's better for everyone concerned.
Yes.
But when you talk about prevention, a lot of Nigerians are often in denial. They have cases where your son is already presenting symptoms of maybe experimental use from that end, but you're like, no, this must be demon, this must be my village people coming in. So how much do you also engage people who unfortunately have become first responders to this kind of issues where something happens, the parents are taking these children to religious leaders, they're taking them to traditional leaders, they're taking them to herbalists and all sorts, instead of getting proper diagnosis. Do you capture that? Because it's very rife in our climate.
Okay, so I'm also opportuned to be a servant of God, to be a clergyman. So I'm presented with this type of opportunities, and thank God for my background in substance abuse treatment, prevention and care. I understand that sometimes, and my background as a clergyman in the holy books,
right,
I understand that sometimes there can be opportunities where somebody is possessed and things like that. But
that has nothing to do with
drug use.
Okay.
But I also have seen firsthand experiences that I've had first-hand experiences that a person would have a genuine spiritual challenge that wants to manifest in that is manifesting in that life, but is taking the angle of substance abuse to manifest.
Okay.
So we treat the root cause spiritually, then because the spiritual and the physical are two sides of the same coin. We're intelligent people. The spiritual and the physical are two sides of the same coin. As we treat the spiritual place with prayers, intercessions, and that as we see that the root spiritually has been severed, we also go to treat the physical part of the brain that might have been damaged.
I'm talking about in this case. Now, I'm not talking about the case where you have mentioned spiritual issues here, but I'm talking about in this case where very often you're getting bipolar and schizophrenia because of your drug use or dependence, and the only place to go is to people like you or clergymen.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
And I'm saying that do you work in both spaces, thank goodness, and so you have a good background of both worlds where yes, you should stop this and this is what's causing this. Oh, okay, this is spiritual. I'm sure you have the insight to see what spiritual issues are. But in cases where this is purely drug use.
Purely drug use. Yes, that's what I'm saying, that in cases where it's spiritual, we handle that side, but we do not neglect the physical damage to the brain.
Right.
So that's why we will still go through a process depending on the severity and depending on the stage the person is in that substance use journey.
So you do not believe that sometimes religious leaders have stifled recovery and treatment of certain individuals who should have, as first responders, oh, this is it, you know what, let's get you help.
Yeah, it's not about what I believe. The evidence is clear to see. If you had seen documentaries about sweet codeine that came out years ago, you would see that there were some people that were chained in some facilities. I will not say the religion, but some facilities in some parts of Nigeria where they were chained, nail and hand and feet, saying that it was possession.
True.
So that's even more reason why we're here today, because now hearing my own views on this topic, a clergyman that's listening probably like, okay, so there are two sides to this thing.
Exactly.
There's the spiritual and the physical.
Right.
And right now will be like new information for him, because you understand that as you give someone a treatment spiritually, you also should look at the treatment physically, involving the doctors, the psychologists, the clinic.
Out of curiosity, right now, what would you say when you indulge to that extent where, let's say you are now addicted to substance and you're abusing substance? Is there anything spiritual about that?
Okay.
Is there any intervention? I'm telling you, I just want to learn. And this is a teaching moment for me.
Okay,
so is there anything spiritual in some way about that drug use? Remember, you indulged, you got to the point, and I know that there are several ways that you could inadvertently get into this addiction, but you have indulged, you are in that space. What is spiritual in any sense about that?
Not all problems have spiritual roots. That is one thing. A lot of times that some people will be in some challenges and they'll be calling Satan, calling the devil, calling a jinn or a spirit. Meanwhile, they're looking at you. You're the one that put yourself here. You didn't pay your bills. They cut off your lights. You are saying no, the devil is bro. You didn't pay your bills. So humans have a tendency to always blame different people for challenges that they go through.
Poor village people will now be called.
Poor village people will be called. So sometimes all problems don't have a root in the spirit, but there are some that do have a root in the spirit. And when those cases occur, like in the past, I have some mentors that believe that God is using me, and I thank God for the faith they have in me and for the grace that God has given me. And sometimes when they are faced with situations of addiction or someone being addicted, they are quick to call me, and I show up there hoping that the God that used me to help somebody before will work again.
Yeah. And is it a spiritual intervention that you offer?
When I get there, I'm happy that I'm opportune to have been trained. I have Harvard Medical School, United Nations Office on Drugs, different training programs from NDLA, UNODC, different. So I'm opportune to have been trained. So when I go there, by the grace of God, I believe I'm an intelligent person.
I like to think so too.
Yeah. So when I go there, I assess the situation as an intelligent person, and I talk to the person. When I'm not a treatment professional, I'm more of a sensitization professional.
Okay.
And a counselor. So I do counsel people, apart from pastoral counseling, addiction counseling. So when I go there, I would counsel the person. But whenever I would be opportune to treat people, like I hope to open a
rehab center,
a rehabilitation center in future. Yes. But for now, what I do is that when I have friends that have rehabilitation centers, I recommend them to those centers. But on first instance, sometimes I'll talk with the person. I would share my own story, my own journey of how I was someone that had challenges with substance use and how God helped me out of it. And most times it will bring the people that I talk to a sober part, to a sober
because
reflection.
You are relatable.
Yes, because I'm relatable. And they are now seeing someone in front of them that was going through what they're going through. And they are now broken. So most times they get broken when I share my stories with them. They get broken and they say, how can we move forward? I tell them that we're going to go through this process. If it's a Christian person, I'll tell the person we can pray together, or I can put the person on a counseling plan. There are some intervention programs that I was trained by Han and George, some of our partners in the USA. It's an outpatient training program, so we can engage them in some of those programs. 12 steps program. After that program, if it's depending on the severity of the case. If it's a case that we handle it like that. If it's a case that needs me to be very spiritual, I'm not apologetic that I'm a Christian, and
you shouldn't be actually.
And in His name we shall cast out demons and they shall leave. So we would handle that, but we would always give reverence to have the assessment of the brain and know that this is something that does not only require the spiritual, also requires a type of physical intervention.
Now, a lot of people are often confused about what indeed is substance abuse. I mean, I take a glass of whiskey or a glass of alcohol or a bottle or two of beer and all of that. Am I abusing my body? In your words, you're a young person, so I know you also engage with young people who inadvertently they just want to have a good time. But at what point is this bottom line substance abuse and just recreational and social indulging?
Okay. So, dear audience, I would say that let me start with definitions. So, a drug. What is a drug? A drug is any substance, whether man-made or naturally occurring, that once taken changes the normal behavior of the body and the mind. Now, what is now drug abuse? In my earlier days, I was trained by NDLEA, so that definition of drug abuse as something that's been stuck with me. Drug abuse will be defined by three things. One, when a person uses a substance without a doctor's prescription. A person's head is aching them. I'm like, oh, my head is aching, my head is aching. Meanwhile, headache can be a symptom of something else that is going on in the body. And the person says, because my head is aching, I can't take Panadol. Meanwhile, if a person has not eaten from morning till night, by the time it's 8 o'clock, there's tendencies that his head will start aching him. If the person takes Panadol at that moment, it will not stop the headache. But if the person should eat, the headache would go. So that now shows that that is drug abuse, because no medical professional is giving you advice and you're taking a drug. Secondly, after you have received advice from a medical professional and the person says, okay, you have a challenge, this. Okay, you have cough, so you should take 1 spoon in the morning, 1 spoon in the afternoon, 1 spoon in the evening. Then the person says, I have an interview. And that interview, I might be there throughout the whole day. I'm going to be live on TV and I might have to miss the afternoon on the exact time. I'm meant to take it 3 p.m. and I have to be live by 3 p.m. So let me just stay. I don't even want to go around with this bottle. So let me just carry the one I'll take for morning, drink everything at the same time. Drink morning, drink afternoon, drink evening, all of them at the same time, 3 spoons at once. That is drug abuse. Then the last definition is, if a person is caught with a substance in a territory or a region where it is not legal, that is drug abuse. There's some parts of the world where marijuana is legal.
It's legal, right?
So if you're caught with marijuana in those places,
you are not committing any crime.
You're not committing any crime. But there are some places that you have caught with alcohol. It's a crime. It's
a crime. Your hand is out.
Your hand is out. So you're going for it. So now that's what we understand by drug abuse. So with these definitions, it can put us, everybody will know. Those people that I have someone that any small thing, she calls the doctor and says, Panadol, paracetamol, this thing. Any small, if the doctor just cough,
there's a drug for
malaria medicine. Doctor just cough, malaria medicine. If she coughs, malaria, every time she's like, I'm tired of medicine.
And unfortunately, I mean, we have also had that conversation when a lot of Africans and Nigerians particularly are becoming resistant to several antibiotics and several drugs and all that. It's unfortunate too, but let's move this conversation now to discuss the reason why do we still have the proliferation. You work really closely with the NDLEA, which they've been doing a wonderful job in seizures of a lot of these drugs that, frankly, you ask yourself, I mean, why are we still here? The awareness is so rife in billboards. We have engagements with young people, but the peddlers are still peddling. And my father would say they are selling only because they are buyers. If there were no buyers, they would not want to sell. So why do you think
that is a smart man?
My father is very smart. You should expect it from me. Yes. So why do you think that is? We're still recording all of this.
Well, in the words of the former EFCC chairman, when we fight, when we fight corruption fights back. When you fight drug abuse fights back. But to be sincere, I would say that there's a lot of progress that's being made. We we are actually at a time where we're having some of the highest profile arrests. So it's important we give flowers to
they have done a fantastic
Brigadier
job.
General Buba Mara, retired, for the proactive work he's doing, and for the head of media, Mr. Femi Babafemi, because when we look at the highest profile arrests and convictions, this one is not just they went and they arrest the person, they show it on media. After they arrest the person, next thing you are seeing conviction, this guy is going to prison. You are seeing seizures, okay, they seize. Then you are seeing auction, they seize and they sell. Like you are seeing like
the entire
biggest
chain
intervention,
of
the chain.
activities,
And you are seeing people that you are seeing
simultaneously.
everything happening, and the media is being carried along that scene. So we are at a point in time where there's somebody that's so proactive that's there, and there is more to be done to increase their budget so that they can recruit more staff. I've personally spoken to officers, some of the challenges. There are some people that grow this marijuana in the mountains. There was international staff that came for observation, and she had to travel with them to climb some mountains. After climbing the journey all day, you now meet armed men.
Wow.
Do you have energy to engage?
Wow.
So sometimes we need to even be thinking of increasing their budget, because they need more ammunition, they need more vehicles, they need more support. We need to start thinking about getting them drones for aerial survey, to survey these things, for land mapping and other things. There's some new innovations that the NDLA is even putting in place. I was opportune to join a delegation to see the NDLA chairman. We had the chairman of the United Nations, of the Vienna NGO group, all the NGOs around the world that are registered in drug demand reduction and drug abuse intervention projects. He came from Vienna. He also came with the person chairing a prevention project called the Ovidio Declaration. I was opportune to join a delegation to see with them, to see the NDLA chairman, and he told us about the alternative development plan. So the alternative development is a new innovation that the NDLA developed, and I think it's quite innovative, and it's something that I will see in the coming years is going to cause a heavy, drastic reduction in drugs. Let me break it down. So the NDLA has realized that some people, all they know is growing marijuana.
Right.
They grew up in a community where marijuana grows in the soil, and their fathers grew marijuana, their grandfather grew marijuana, they are growing the marijuana. So whenever you come, arrest some people, cut it, this, burn the place, when you leave, they continue growing the marijuana, because that's the plant, that is their livelihood, that's what they do. So now in this alternative development structure, which is a new department in the NDLA, they're looking at a way that, okay, they will destroy, but can we now empower these people into other forms of agriculture or other livelihoods that would make them leave that thing? Because if you just come and say what you are doing is wrong and you just destroy it, when you go, they will continue.
Because it's their
but
means
now,
of livelihood.
if you now rehabilitate them, put them into other forms of livelihood, now you'll be sure that these people will see more benefit in this one than in that one, and continue with that. So that's an innovative.
I thought this alternative solution would be one that talks about the legalization. I know that there was a presidential, I know it's very controversial, and I know a lot of people would probably come for me, but there was a presidential candidate that made a lot of sense and said the oils from marijuana, for instance, is sought after globally.
Yes.
And if we can grow it here, let us have sensitization and say, do not these are the dangers. Just like we have tobacco today. Tobacco has serious dangers, in spite of the WHO convention against passive or secondhand smoking. You know, we have all that in place. Why don't we also benefit from the revenue that the country can generate from the cultivation of marijuana, for instance? When you hear people say that, and it was a presidential candidate that said that at some point, how did it make you feel, knowing the dangers, by the way?
When I look at situations, I look at it from an objective point of view. I'm opportune to work with legislators, opportune to work with different people, so I hear different opinions, and I look at things from an objective point of view. When we talk about the oils from marijuana, there are oils that come from marijuana that can be used to treat arthritis and other pains and things going on, of which I know family members that they sold this. It's called CBD oil, and CBD is a component of cannabis sativa.
Right.
And those CBD oils, elderly people take those oils, they put 2 drops under their tongue, and it's able to stop joint pains, a lot of pains. Very, very useful, I must add, very effective. I've seen people use it, and it's very, very good. It's sold in some pharmacies, or they import it. It's CBD oil. At that time, it was being sold for 75,000 naira.
That's how expensive
for part
it is.
of that oil. Very, very good. But CBD is a component of cannabis, of cannabinoids.
Just a component.
Yes, it's a component. There's also the THC the THC component. The THC component is what gives the high, so to say. The THC component and CBD. Around the whole world, Nigeria's marijuana has the highest THC component. In the whole world, Nigeria's marijuana has the highest THC component. So that's already part of that argument. It's already cancelled, because what they need is the CBD component, and the THC component in our marijuana is bigger than the CBD component. Secondly, it's a nice idea, because when I heard about the CBD, that time it was about maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and it was selling for 75,000 naira. By now it might be 250,000 naira for a small bottle of that CBD oil. But the challenge now is that if we legalize marijuana in this country, we don't have the network to contain it. We don't have. I said we're on a journey. Every nation is on a journey. Every republic is on a journey, and I don't believe that we are at that stage where we have the frameworks to regulate that industry. There are other industries in the country that will not be able to properly regulate. So bringing this new industry, licensing people, and most of the countries some countries that actually legalized marijuana, that's the growing of marijuana. In Africa, if you look at them, it's more like this former oil deal that before Dangote came. It's some companies that have license to come to the country. Some foreign companies have license to come to the country, take a particular region, cultivate that region by themselves, then they pay stipends, in small stipends
to locals,
not even to locals, to the country. Then they go and they process it there. They don't process it here. They go and they process it there, get it, then come and sell it times 10 or times 20 times back to the country.
We have that in several other aspects. But let's go back to the International Day that's pointing at anti-drug.
Break the cycle.
Yeah, break the cycle. But above everything, a lot of people are watching you now and saying, I have someone who probably needs help. I can see he's presenting, is it symptoms they call it? Symptoms, right? He's beginning to present those symptoms of someone who's into drug use. What help is available for them?
Okay. First of all, let me talk about the symptoms so we can clarify you, so that you don't get it wrong. So there are a couple of things that could be going on that I will mention as maybe some symptoms. And it does not mean that the person is using, but it is what to look into. For example, if it's a young person, this was a child that was loving, that grew up with you, that was always around you. Now when the child comes back from school, the child is rushing to that room, always want to keep that door locked, making secret calls and being on their own. It could either be that the child has a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or the child has started abusing some substances. So it's worth talking to the child and investigating. A child that when they come back from school or come back from work, they will always want to come and hug you. But now, because the person knows that what they're doing is actually wrong, when they come back from school, they're avoiding that closeness, that close touch with you. They're running directly to the room, greeting from afar. They never want to come close to you. It could be that maybe their mouth is still smelling the cigarettes, or maybe they feel like the cigarette is smelling on them, or just the general bad conscience of knowing that they're not doing anything. A child that would always look in your eyes can't look at you directly in the eyes again. It's always avoiding eye contact, because they just feel like that there's a everybody has a conscience.
Right.
And if someone is doing something wrong, if the person is not narcissist.
Exactly.
someone's doing something wrong.
You should feel some remorse naturally.
Feel some natural remorse that I'm not doing this. This what I'm doing is not right. The person will be avoiding a lot of those things. Also, someone that was doing good in school is now doing bad. Someone that was performing very well at work is now doing bad. Is now not performing. Well, individually, picking up these things one is wrong. It will not be that but if you add it all of them together, you can say so someone that was very chubby all of a sudden starts to lose weight, or someone that was very slim, spontaneous weight gain. Someone that was very calm now is coming to the office, is looking for that person he will fight that day. Everybody is avoiding the person in the office, like it's like this one don't go take something. You know, people make those type of statements in the office. Leave am, it's like this one don't go take something. Or in school, that child that comes to the school and is looking for the teacher who slap. He used to be the sweetest boy. Now he or she is now violent, easily angered, mood switches very quickly, like.
But so basically, you would see behavioral changes away from the pattern of that individual.
And if there's someone like that, there are a lot of help that you can get. The UNODC during COVID launched a drug helpline.
Okay.
They launched a drug helpline, so you can just Google drug helpline. If you go online, you see agencies, organizations that you can check, and you would find out help. The NDLA has a drug-free helpline that you can get someone to talk to you, and you can reach out to me.
Yeah, you can reach out to him. We've had Kenneth Anetor, the president of the founder, A New Thing, and indeed he's been doing a new thing in the fight against drug abuse and giving you that awareness necessary, desensitization, so that you would do the right thing. Thank you so much for being part of the show.
It's a pleasure.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine, and congratulations on all the things that you've been doing and the accolades you've been getting simultaneously, of course. Thank you so much. But this is where we end today's edition. We've been discussing so much from the presidential tax reform that was just introduced, and now we discussed the Anti-Drug Day 2025, where we're talking about prevention and recovery, treatment and recovery for all. Thank you for being part of today's show.